waiting for. It is now my great privilege and high honor to be the first person to officially introduce the 46th President of the United States, Joseph R. Biden, Jr.
Chief Justice Roberts, Vice President Harris, Speaker Pelosi, Leader Schumer, Leader McConnell, Vice President Pence, and my distinguished guests, my fellow Americans. This is America's day. This is democracy's day, a day of history and hope, of renewal and resolve. Through a crucible for the ages, America has been tested anew, and America has risen to the challenge. Today, we celebrate the triumph not of a candidate, but of a cause, the cause of democracy. This is democracy. The people,
are you able to hear my audio?
Has been heard.
Yeah. Okay.
And the will of the people has been heeded. We've learned again that democracy is precious. Democracy is fragile. And at this hour, my friends, democracy has prevailed. So now, on this hallowed ground where just a few days ago, violence sought to shake the Capitol's very foundation, we come together as one nation, under God, indivisible, to carry out the peaceful transfer of power as we have for more than 2 centuries. As we look ahead in our uniquely American way, restless, bold, optimistic, and set our sights on the nation we know we can be and we must be. I thank my predecessors of both parties for their presence here today. I thank them from the bottom of my heart, and I know the resilience of our Constitution and the strength of our nation, as does President Carter, who I spoke with last night, who cannot be with us today, but whom we salute for his lifetime in service. I've just taken the sacred oath each of those patriots have taken. The oath first sworn by George Washington. But the American story depends not on any one of us, not on some of us, but on all of us, on we the people who seek a more perfect union. This is a great nation. We are good people. And over the centuries, through storm and strife, in peace and in war, we've come so far. But we still have far to go. We'll press forward with speed and urgency, for we have much to do in this winter of peril and significant possibilities. Much to repair, much to restore, much to heal, much to build, and much to gain. Few people in our nation's history have been more challenged or found a time more challenging or difficult than the time we're in now.
Tell him.
Once-in-a-century virus that silently stalks the country. It's taken as many lives in 1 year as America lost in all of World War II. Millions of jobs have been lost. Hundreds of thousands of businesses closed. A cry for racial justice, some 400 years in the making, moves us. The dream of justice for all will be deferred no longer. A cry for survival comes from the planet itself. A cry that can't be any more desperate or any more clear. And now, a rise of political extremism, white supremacy, domestic terrorism that we must confront and we will defeat.
Okay, Joe.
To overcome these challenges, to restore the soul and secure the future of America, requires so much more than words. It requires the most elusive of all things in a democracy, unity.
Wow.
Unity. In another January, on New Year's Day in 1863, Abraham Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation. When he put pen to paper, the president said, and I quote, "If my name ever goes down into history, it'll be for this act, and my whole soul is in it." My whole soul is in it. Today, on this January day, my whole soul is in this.
Ow.
Bringing America together, uniting our people, uniting our nation. And I ask every American to join me in this cause. Uniting to fight the foes we face: anger, resentment and hatred, extremism, lawlessness, violence, disease, joblessness, and hopelessness. With unity, we can do great things, important things. We can right wrongs. We can put people to work in good jobs. We can teach our children in safe schools. We can overcome the deadly virus. We can reward work and rebuild the middle class and make health care secure for all. We can deliver racial justice, and we can make America once again the leading force for good in the world.
I thought he was going to say great again.
Yo.
I know, speaking of unity,
I paused. I
can
froze.
sound to some like a foolish fantasy these days. I know the forces that divide us are deep and they are real. But I also know they are not new. Our history has been a constant struggle between the American ideal that we're all are created equal and the harsh, ugly reality that racism, nativism, fear, demonization have long torn us apart. The battle is perennial, and victory is never assured. Through Civil War, the Great Depression, World War, 9/11, through struggle, sacrifice, and setbacks, our better angels have always prevailed. In each of these moments, enough of us have come together to carry all of us forward.
Huh?
And we can do that now. History, faith, and reason show the way of unity. We can see each other not as adversaries, but as neighbors. We can treat each other with dignity and respect. We can join forces, stop the shouting, and lower the temperature. Without unity,
Look, Joe.
there is no
Look, Joe.
only bitterness and fury. No
And also,
progress. Only
we got the
outrage.
2.0s.
Hey.
You feel me?
Only a
All
state
the
of
way out
chaos.
here.
No more of that
This
silence.
is our historic moment of crisis and challenge. And unity is the path forward.
I mean, I'm trying to get everybody ready for some
And we
respectability
must meet
politics.
this moment as the
Let's just
United
unite everybody.
States of America.
We don't need to hoop
If
and
we
holler.
do that, I guarantee you we will not
With
fail.
them.
We have never, ever, ever, ever failed in America. We've acted together.
What?
And so today, at this time, in this place, let's start afresh. All of us. Let's begin to listen to one another again. Hear one another. See one another. Show respect to one another. Politics doesn't have to be a raging fire, destroying everything in its path. Every disagreement doesn't have to be a cause for total war. And we must reject the culture in which facts themselves are manipulated and even manufactured.
Drop bombs, kill car alarms.
Bang. Bang.
My fellow Americans, we have to be different than
What's up,
this.
Joe?
America has to be better than this. And I believe America is so much better than this. Just look around. Here we stand in the shadow of the Capitol Dome as was mentioned earlier, completed amid the Civil War, when the Union itself was literally hanging in the balance.
No?
Yet we endured. We prevailed.
That's
Here we
that's what I'm
stand.
talking about.
Looking out on the Great Mall, where Dr. King spoke of
Where's
his
that other
dream.
600 at?
Here we stand. We're 108 years ago.
1400.
At another
You got a
inaugural.
1400?
Thousands of protesters tried to block brave
Well,
women
He subtracted
marching
that
for the
600
right to
from the
vote.
2000, so
And today,
1400 is
we
counting.
mark the swearing in of the first woman in American history elected to national office, Vice President Kamala Harris. Don't tell me things can't change.
The right people at concerts.
Here we stand.
That's it.
Across the Potomac from Arlington Cemetery, where heroes who gave the last full measure of devotion rest in eternal peace. And here we stand, just days after a riotous mob thought they could use violence to silence the will of the people,
You thought
to
wrong.
stop the work of our democracy,
Not
to
today.
drive us from this sacred ground.
The ground is sacred.
It did
The ground
not
is
happen.
sacred.
It will never happen. Not today, not tomorrow, not ever. Not ever. To all those who supported our campaign, I'm humbled by the faith you've placed in us. To all those who did not support us, let me say this. Hear me out as we move forward. Take a measure of me and my heart. And if you still disagree, so be it. That's democracy. That's America. The right to dissent peaceably within the guardrails of our republic is perhaps this nation's greatest strength. Yet hear me clearly.
Here.
Disagreement must not lead to disunion. And I pledge this to you. I will be a president for all Americans. All Americans. And I promise you, I will fight as hard for those who did not support me as for those who did.
Check that chat.
Many centuries ago,
That's the link.
St. Augustine, a saint of my church, wrote that a people was a multitude defined by the common objects of their love. Defined by the common objects of their love. What are the common objects we as Americans love that define us as Americans? I think we know. Opportunity, security, dignity,
Justice for
respect,
all.
honor,
Ooh.
and yes, the truth. Recent weeks and months have taught us a painful lesson. There is truth and there are lies. Lies told for power and for profit. And each of us has a duty and a responsibility as citizens, as Americans, and especially as leaders. Leaders who have pledged to honor our Constitution and protect our nation, to defend the truth and defeat the lies. Look, I understand that many of my fellow Americans view the future with fear and trepidation. I understand they worry about their jobs. I understand, like my dad, they lay in bed at night, staring at the ceiling, wondering, can I keep my health care? Can I pay my mortgage? Thinking about their families, about what comes next. I promise you, I get it. But the answer is not to turn inward, to retreat into competing factions, distrusting those who don't look like you, or worship the way you do, or don't get their news from the same sources you do. We must end this uncivil war that pits red against blue, rural versus urban, or rural versus urban,
Banging on wax.
conservative versus liberal. We can do this if we open our souls instead of hardening our hearts, if we show a little tolerance and humility, and if we're willing to stand in the other person's shoes, as my mom would say, just for a moment, stand in their shoes. Because here's the thing about life. There's no accounting for what fate will deal you. Some days when you need a hand. There are other days when we're called to lend a hand. That's how it has to be. This is what we do for one another. And if we are this way, our country will be stronger, more prosperous, more ready for the future. And we can still disagree. My fellow Americans, in the work ahead of us, we're going to need each other. We need all our strength to persevere through this dark winter.
Because we be needing perseverance.
We're entering what may be the toughest and deadliest period of the virus. We must set aside politics and finally face this pandemic as one nation. One nation. And I promise you this, as the Bible says, weeping may endure for a night, but joy cometh in the morning. We will get through this together. Together. Look, folks, all my colleagues I serve with in the House and the Senate up here, we all understand the world is watching all of us today. So here's my message to those beyond our borders. America has been tested, and we've come out stronger for it. We will repair our alliances and engage with the world once again. Not to meet yesterday's challenges, but today's and tomorrow's challenges. And we'll lead not merely by the example of our power, but by the power of our example. We'll be a strong and trusted partner for peace, progress, and security. Look, you all know we've been through so much in this nation. And my first act as president, I'd like to ask you to join me in a moment of silent prayer. Remember all of those who we lost in this past year to the pandemic. Those 400,000 fellow Americans, moms, dads, husbands, wives, sons, daughters, friends, neighbors, and co-workers. We'll honor them for becoming the people and the nation we know we can and should be. So I ask you, let's say a silent prayer for those who've lost their lives and those left behind, and for our country.
Are we praying for the people that died from COVID? Is that what we're praying for right now?
Amen.
Oh, that was quick.
Folks, this is a time of testing. We face an attack on our democracy and on truth, a raging virus, growing inequity, the sting of systemic racism, a climate in crisis, America's role in the world. Any one of these would be enough to challenge us in profound ways. But the fact is, we face them all at once, presenting this nation with one of the gravest responsibilities we've had. Now we're going to be tested. Are we going to step up, all of us? It's time for boldness, for there's so much to do. And this is certain. I promise you, we will be judged, you and I, by how we resolve these cascading crises of our era. We will rise to the occasion is the question. Will we master this rare and difficult hour? Will we meet our obligations and pass along a new and better world to our children? I believe we must. I'm sure you do as well. I believe we will. And when we do, we'll write the next great chapter in the history of the United States of America, the American story. A story that might sound something like a song that means a lot to me. It's called American Anthem. There's one verse that stands out, at least for me, and it goes like this. The work and prayers of century have brought us to this day. What shall be our legacy? What will our children say? Let me know in my heart
Dr. Seuss wrote this?
when my days are through. America, America, I gave my best to you. Let's us add our own work and prayers to the unfolding story of our great nation. If we do this, Then when our days are through, our children and our children's children will say of us, they gave their best, they did their duty, they healed a broken land. My fellow Americans, I close the day where I began, with the sacred oath. Before God and all of you, I give you my word. I will always level with you. I will defend the Constitution. I'll defend our democracy. I'll defend America. And I'll give all of you, keep everything I do in your service, thinking not of power, but of possibilities, not of personal interest, but the public good. And together, we shall write an American story of hope, not fear, of unity, not division, of light, not darkness, a story of decency and dignity, love and healing, greatness and goodness. May this be the story that guides us, the story that inspires us, and the story that tells ages yet to come that we answered the call of history. We met the moment. Democracy and hope, truth and justice did not die on our watch, but thrived. That America secured liberty at home and stood once again as a beacon to the world. That is what we owe our forebears, one another, and generation to follow. So, with purpose and resolve, we turn to those tasks of our time, sustained by faith, driven by conviction, and devoted to one another and the country we love with all our hearts. May God bless America, and may God protect our troops. Thank you, America.
Oh,
Why is Amy Klobuchar up there in the yellow coat? Why is she there?
gang banging.
Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated.
Oh, okay.
Uh-oh. Is this for Lady Gaga?
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Garth Brooks to perform Amazing Grace.
I don't know why that was.
Garth Brooks to perform Amazing Grace? Get me out of here.
Like, you love the buckle.
That's his presidential buckle. I thought Joe was from Delaware. What are we doing?
Watch your mouth talking about Joseph.
Robinette.
Joe.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I was lost.
Who asked for this? I need to know. Who performed at Trump's inauguration?
You did?
Oh, I said, who did?
Oh, I thought you said he did us. Wasn't it like a rock group or something?
Been there.
I want to know where Bernie is.
10,000
Like, where's Bernie sitting?
years. Bright shining as the sun. We've no less days to sing God's praise than
You
when
like a retired football player.
we first
Look like mall security. You don't get out of my face.
If I can ask you to sing this last verse with me.
No, thank
Not just the people here, but the people at home.
Okay, good.
What I
Call
won't do
back.
is you ain't gonna program
Call to
first.
action, baby. Let me.
Amazing Amazing grace, how sweet
Ain't nobody doing it.
the sound that saved
They ain't even pretending.
Nah, they mask ain't doing
They
no
like-
movement.
Right, look at Mitch. Oh my God.
He falling in love. That's what it looked like.
Yo,
was lost,
Mitch is like,
but
finally.
now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see.
Well, thanks, Garth.
Ah,
Is it a 10-gallon hat?
a little swash, a little buckling.
Put your mask on.
All right, shaking hands with your breath all out.
All right. What you doing hugging Obamas
With no mask on.
with no mask on?
Ah.
That's biological terrorism right there, boys.
Hard not to be reminded of
Oh, I missed it. He was still over there talking to Barry. He messing up the whole situation.
hard not to be reminded of President Obama's singing that same song at the Mother Emanuel Church. A song that in our culture is as close to both poetry and prayer as you could possibly come. And we're going to finish with those two things. Let me introduce Amanda Gorman, our nation's first ever National Poet Laureate.
Hey.
Mr. President, Dr. Biden, Madam Vice President, Mr. Emhoff, Americans, and the world. When day comes, we ask ourselves, where can we find light in this never-ending shade? The loss we carry, a sea we must wade. We've braved the belly of the beast. We've learned that quiet isn't always peace, and the norms and notions of what just isn't always just is. And yet the dawn is ours before we knew it. Somehow we do it. Somehow we've weathered and witnessed a nation that isn't broken, but simply unfinished. We, the successors of a country and a time where a skinny black girl descended from slaves and raised by a single mother can dream of becoming president, only to find herself reciting for one. And yes, we are far from polished, far from pristine, but that doesn't mean we are striving to form a union that is perfect. We are striving to forge our union with purpose, to compose a country committed to all cultures, colors, characters, and conditions of man. And so we lift our gazes not to what stands between us, but what stands before us. We close the divide because we know to put our future first, we must first put our differences aside. We lay down our arms so we can reach out our arms to one another. We seek harm to none and harmony for all. Let the globe, if nothing else, say this is true. That even as we grieved, we grew, that even as we hurt, we hoped, that even as we tired, we tried, that we'll forever be tied together, victorious, not because we will never again know defeat, but because we will never again sow division. Scripture tells us to envision that everyone shall sit under their own vine and fig tree, and no one shall make them afraid. If we're to live up to our own time, then victory won't lie in the blade, but in all the bridges we've made. That is the promised glade, the hill we climb, if only we dare it, because being American is more than a pride we inherit. It's the past we step into and how we repair it. We've seen a force that would shatter our nation rather than share it, would destroy our country if it meant delaying democracy. And this effort very nearly succeeded. But while democracy can be periodically delayed, it can never be permanently defeated. In this truth, in this faith we trust, for while we have our eyes on the future, history has its eyes on us. This is the era of just redemption. We feared it at its inception. We did not feel prepared to be the heirs of such a terrifying hour, but within it we found the power to author a new chapter, to offer hope and laughter to ourselves. So, while once we asked, how could we possibly prevail over catastrophe? Now we assert, how could catastrophe possibly prevail over us? We will not march back to what was, but move to what shall be, a country that is bruised but whole, benevolent but bold, fierce and free. We will not be turned around or interrupted by intimidation, because we know our inaction and inertia will be the inheritance of the next generation. Our blunders become their burdens, but one thing is certain. If we merge mercy with might and might with right, then love becomes our legacy and change our children's birthright. So let us leave behind a country better than the one we were left. With every breath from my bronze-pounded chest, we will raise this wounded world into a wondrous one. We will rise from the gold-limbed hills of the West. We will rise from the wind-swept Northeast, where our forefathers first realized revolution. We will rise from the lake-rimmed cities of the Midwestern states. We will rise from the sun-baked South. We will rebuild, reconcile, and recover in every known nook of our nation, in every corner called our country. Our people, diverse and beautiful, will emerge battered and beautiful. When day comes, we step out of the shade, aflame and unafraid. The new dawn blooms as we free it. For there is always light, if only we're brave enough to see it, if only we're brave enough to be it.
Incredible. Absolutely incredible. I don't care about Harvard, but 22?
Just get a task.
I just want to note how effed up it is.
Thank you, Amanda Gorman. Now for our
Anybody?
benediction, I'm pleased to introduce Reverend Dr. Sylvester Beeman, the pastor of the Bethel African Methodist Episcopal Church in Wilmington, Delaware, a friend of President Biden for 30 years.
He almost botched that.
Yeah. The fact that any of these Black people have to perform, talk, do anything, stand up in front of the colony's American flag is why I hate it here.
Why I oughta.
As a nation and people of faith gathered in this historical moment, let us unite in
Oh,
prayer.
and he got the pastor's
Yo.
message.
God, we
Okay,
gather
Doctor.
under the beauty of your holiness and the holiness of your beauty.
I was drinking and
seek
couldn't
your
get it out in
face.
time. Good looking on the
Your
assist.
smile, your warm embrace. We petition you once more in this celebration.
Celebration.
We pray for divine favor upon our president, Joseph R. Biden, and our First Lady, Dr. Jill Biden, and their family. We further ask that you would extend the same favor upon our Vice President, Kamala D. Harris, and our second gentleman, Doug Emhoff, and their family. more than ever, they in our nation need you. We need you, for in you we discover our common humanity. In our common humanity, we will seek out the wounded and bind their wounds. We will seek healing for those who are sick and diseased. We will mourn our dead. We will befriend the lonely, the least, and the left out. We will share our abundance with those who are hungry.
Ain't supposed to be there.
We will do justly to the oppressed.
Ooh, he's doing the
Acknowledge
Montclair.
sin and seek
Drips.
forgiveness,
Drips.
thus grasping reconciliation. In discovering our humanity, we will seek the good in and for all our neighbors.
I think a cherry
We will
pit
love the
ended up in my
unlovable.
drink. Something near
Remove the
Yellow Heart
stigma
knocking
of the
around.
so-called
Like, what?
untouchable.
Or
We will care for
Is
our
the
most
Hitman
vulnerable, our
Challenge?
children, the elderly, emotionally challenged, and the poor. We will seek rehabilitation beyond correction. We will extend opportunity to those locked out of opportunity. We will make friends
with the MLK cadence.
of our enemies. We will make friends
Had that little shakiness.
Yeah.
of our enemies.
Opportunity.
People, your people, shall no longer raise up weapons
Look.
against one another. We will rather use our resources
You know, Trump sitting
for the
on
national
Air Force
good and
One or
become a
wherever he's
beacon
out
of
watching.
life and goodwill
He's
to
like
the
the stand
world.
Nobody even there.
And neither
Full body
shall
suit.
we learn hatred anymore. We will lie down in peace and not make our neighbors afraid. In you, O God, we discover our humanity. In our humanity, we discover our commonness. Beyond the difference of color, creed, origin, political party, ideology, geography, and personal preferences. We'll become greater stewards of your environment, preserving the land, reaping from it a sustainable harvest, and securing its wonder and miracle-giving power for generations to come. This is our benediction, that from these hallowed grounds, where slaves labored to build this shrine and citadel to liberty and democracy, let us all acknowledge, from the indigenous Native American to those who recently received their citizenship, from the African American to those whose foreparents came from Europe and every corner of the globe, from the wealthy to those struggling to make it, from every human being, regardless of their choices, that this is our country. As such, teach us, O God. As such, teach us, O God, to live in it, love in it, be healed in it, and reconcile to one another in it, lest we miss kingdom's goal. To your glory, majesty, dominion, and power forever.
That's a shout out to Chris Brown right there.
Hallelujah. Glory, hallelujah. In the strong name of our collective faith. Amen.
Talk to him.
Please remain standing as the Armed Forces Color Guard retires our national
Did
colors.
he pound it? Okay.
Oh yeah. Oh
He
yeah.
Out here, knuckle bumping.
I'm gonna tell you right now.
Huh.
Nobody should have had to follow Amanda, and I simply was not interested in the prayer after she dropped all the bombs.
He should have definitely. She should have closed it out.
Yeah, she was the closeout. Some respect on her headliner name. Like, first, you, poet laureate. I don't even know what that was.
Poet laureate. Is that what you said? Poet laureate.
Laureate.
PL. PLT. Joseph.
Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated and remain in your seats while the president and official party depart the platform. For safety reasons, your
Once
ushers
my
will
little
release your
area
section
right
in
there
an organized
gets-
manner. Following the playing of our national march,
Y'all make
the
sure I
Stars
let
and
it go.
Stripes
Although
forever.
I'm gonna let it go way before, but just don't let me be in the world with the half a baldy.
With the top and like feature.
Yeah, just
What if, if I became vice president or president and I don't want this music? Play me out to something I want. This sounds like I'm about to slip on a banana peel.
You trying to have the HBCU there?
You damn right. Bring out Beyonce.
You know what I was thinking about? Just right quick, tangent, cam time. So when we think of Queen Bee, a lot of people would default to who?
Beyonce. Oh, Lil' Kim.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
See how Lil' Kim became an afterthought? She needs to be suing somebody.
Nope, she doesn't.
What? She put a hex on the whole family.
Dressed in all black like that. No. She messed her own situation up.
Nah.
These ain't white.
Nah.
These don't bleach their skin.
Family. She gets in there like, did she write that on the paper? I always want to know when people be having little parts. Do they write it on the paper? I heard that in the store last night and was rolling. Like, that is a trigger for me. That can get played anywhere. I don't care how serious, what's going on.
No.
But he said it right after a killer bar too.
Yeah, exactly.
How do you murder somebody in the bar and then go?
Put a squiggle on
A
man put a
going
squiggle.
up too because he was like, gotta get higher. Throw a little reverb on that. Who's out there with the flute? Show the flute.
Give me the flute.
That's it. Unleash the flute. When they said that on the Bud podcast, I cried.
Why are they so crowding? Like,
yeah, we ain't distancing.
it's like egress of a concert. You guys know what you're doing right now, right?
Janet, we really witnessed.
And he got his nose out.
Yo.
What is he doing?
So this is where I think it's 4 days from now we'll get the.
Yep.
I like to
That's positive.
He
for
really had his
coronavirus.
nose out and nostril hanging over the
That's
bridge.
as big than a mud.
But from the time the ceremony started, and two of the quotes were coming from his inauguration. How about the first youth poet, Amanda Gorham?
Why? Flutes be sounding so dainty.
Yeah.
She's awfully skilled in alliteration.
It's like you're supposed to be doing some
Amanda
type of
Gorman's
dance that
poem,
involves
The
being
Hill
on
We
your
Climb,
toes.
An uplifting
Dr.
moment.
Jill out here in a
Poets
dope
have been
color. I'll give
included
her
in the
that.
ceremony since
I'm a
1961
fan.
that we were talking a little bit earlier. Robert
would that be
Frost
called?
that year for
Not
Kennedy's
100% sure,
inauguration
like
read a poem and
Robinette
it's
Egg
one of
Blue
these,
or something.
ways in which this tradition is expanding and contracting. Right? There are different things each year, and there are some things that are the same from one to the next. But one constant is the peaceful transfer of power.
You know,
Oh.
at times during
No.
inaugural ceremonies,
I'm Barack
you can
Obama.
see
I'm not
things
fist bumping Mitch McConnell.
regal.
I'm not doing it.
Something
Did he do it with his
that
left
was
or right
just so
hand?
common. And
I don't
it
know.
just fit.
I know this.
Garth Brooks walking down the staircase.
Oh, McCarthy
and
snubbed
singing Amazing
Obama?
Grace. And when he left, it's as if his horse was hitched on the east side of the Capitol, and he rode off. It was just wonderful.
Where's Bernie? Out
The
doing
Joint
errands
Committee
already?
On the Joint Congressional Committee on Inaugural Ceremonies, Chairman Blunt said,
I feel
witnessing
like
an event both commonplace
her
and
arm should be
miraculous."
getting hooked.
And I think you just summed it up right there. The commonality that we feel when we see musical
does that mean?
performances.
Because like
when we hear
when you're
live
walking
music.
with your
And
woman,
then the
like
miraculous moment. When
he
we see
had-
this changeover
like, she
of
was
power,
locked
and it's
into
something
him.
which
I
is
feel
unique
like
to the United States.
she's
This
the-
ceremony, nobody else does
you are
anything like
now-
this, and nobody else
power
has a
in
live
the-
stream
in
feed.
the
like
plant.
you're
ours,
the
'cause we
you're
have
the house
cameras in
husband. Bro.
places.
Nah, I'm just
Even now,
stop.
We have cameras in places nobody else
Don't
does.
get yourself
So
in
we're getting
trouble.
some angles here. You
Nothing
can see
wrong.
Obama's there.
Your sexism.
Because I'm down with house husband.
Senator McConnell's wife.
That's VP Harris.
First of all, no, you're not.
Children just behind them.
Yes.
You don't know how to
And
sit
Ella
down.
has
You don't
the
know how to.
decorated shoulders on her.
As
Well, I
soon
would
as-
have
As soon as you get your
activities.
chores done for the day, you're gonna
President
be like,
Clinton with
"Oh,
the
what do I do
Obamas there
now?"
as well. And this is the part where
build a
everybody
fence.
gets up and starts to make
Oh,
their way back
okay.
off the platform,
See,
back into
I like
the
it.
Capitol.
It's not
We
just,
saw
you know,
VP Harris and
wander,
her
and I'd
husband
be
going
like,
through
you know,
the
that's
crypt a few
teaching
moments ago.
woodworking.
Indeed.
You know, President Biden.
You know, a
within
lot
the
of
first
projects.
Sentence.
I just
which
meant
is
you don't
use these three
have
words.
the full-time
Our
kids, so the
determined
house
democracy.
husbanding
That's
is
the
a whole
theme.
lot
That's
easier.
Basically, I
the
just
theme
not-
of
I'm
this
just saying,
59th
I'm just
inaugural
not,
ceremonies. That's the
don't wanna
theme
go to
that the
work.
J6 selected.
I'm not too
And
enthusiastic.
a wonderful phrase to encapsulate this: determined
about the
democracy,
prospect
forging a more
of working
perfect
for the rest
union.
of my life.
And a few
I'm
people
with
made
you.
reference to it. You also mentioned how Biden's inaugural speech.
I'm ready for that
quoted.
lotto to hit,
And there's
but
so
you got to
many
play to
famous
win.
quotes
Did
that
you-
come
I haven't
right,
been
I was-
playing.
from presidential inaugural speeches.
That's
I
why
meant to go by and
inaugurations are
grab
so
one
important.
and
I
Me
mentioned
too.
earlier about Thomas
Just because I
Jefferson,
saw
but what
how
about Andrew
I didn't even
Jackson
know
mentioned about
we were
I didn't-
dealing with these kind of figures.
that-
I didn't
that it should be
either.
for the
Is
good
it already hit?
of
Did it
the
already hit or is
people,
it? When is
and
it?
that the people
I don't think
direct
anyone won. Oh, it's
Government
today,
should
Wednesday,
respect
for
the
Powerball.
When is the
privacy
cutoff?
of Persons and position.
Usually like
Andrew
7
Jackson.
seven or
We
8.
could go on about
FDR,
I'm
the
like,
only thing we
slide,
have to fear
yeah,
is
a little
fear
8 of 'em.
itself. And Lincoln, the better angels of our nature, comes from one of his inaugural speeches. This is a moment where, and they vary in length. We've had
The
long
blues ain't
inaugural
been getting
speeches in our
blocked.
nation's history. We've
We'll
had
have
short ones. We've had fatally long inaugural
That's
speeches.
22
Ed
just chatting with the president. I just want to.
Yeah.
Who's that? Lady
President
Gaga?
Reagan mentioning, hey,
Yeah.
it's
that Lady
not
Gaga?
That's what I thought
people
she was
that
gonna
have
sing.
done
That's what they
it's
had.
government
I
that
missed
needs
that
to-
part because they had
That
announced
bird.
it.
This
And we see
roach.
President Obama there.
Dun,
who's-
dun,
who's-
dun.
In this inaugural address, his first one,
Dun,
the
dun, dun, dun.
remaking of America.
There's the poet Amanda Gorman there at the
That's
lower
all I
right
know.
of your screen.
That's
And President Obama hugging Lady Gaga.
The lady, what a tremendous.
The lady.
not the lady.
rendition of
Okay.
An incredible performance.
This braid headband.
I'm not
cannot
sure if that
keep
was a
up.
designer of a dress or an architect that built that dress. That is.
Hella iPhones out.
Man,
She's certainly found something to rival the architecture and the iconography of the Capitol. And I mean, we've talked a little bit about fashion choices, how to stand out in the crowd.
Now, you mentioned
Here
Mr.
we are, the young poet Amanda Gorman shaking hands with former President Clinton.
Shout out
Just
Amanda.
mentioned Miss Gorham, who has a speech impediment. And Janet, who else has a speech impediment?
President
Joseph
Biden.
Robinette Biden.
How about Maya Angelou?
Maya Angelou, another poet who has spoken. So that's the poet Amanda Gorman in a yellow
Aw,
jacket, and we see Lady Gaga and Michelle Obama hugging here.
Jill with the curls.
Man,
You so much body and bounce.
all the body. Body yaddy.
Oh, we're
Go
looking
back to the East Front.
The purple,
front
Ladies and gentlemen, it's
perfect
not over.
purple.
What do we mean by it's the departure
Is that purple? Is that
of
wine?
Mr. Pence?
You
Ox
got it.
blood.
You're the
There's
designer,
just
not
as
me.
many
You tell me.
iconic ceremonies that happen after
If
the
somebody
swearing of the
tripped
oath
down
as
them
there are
stairs,
before. And there are just as many
that's
moments
the
for us to
movie
watch
joint where we're like,
and see behind the scenes perspective. I believe that's Hillary Clinton there. You have the purple scarf.
No, I've just been
Thud.
someone that.
That's another one that I'm a
Times
sucker
when we
for
finished our
on like
assignments, which
spoof movies. When they be
casually worked my way
falling
to
down
the
the hill
front.
for like 3
And
minutes.
there's
I cannot.
It's just the
there's
rolls
more than
just keep
a few
coming.
thousand people
Ah,
for the departure ceremony. There's prayer
Can't do
that's
it.
rendered. There's pomp and circumstance. It's ceremonial.
You know how many times
Well,
I've
we
heard
talked
the
a little
phrase
earlier
pomp
about
and
how
circumstance
the
just
president's-
today?
Where is the
Like,
president
a
inaugurated versus
solid
where the
8.
president
That's a
This
lot.
happens here at the Capitol, the
Just
home of the
learning the
legislative branch,
word.
home of Congress. And then, so this departure ceremony,
Right.
this moment where our new president and vice president
I'm waiting for
depart from the
the
Capitol
security
into
jokes
their
about
term
Gaga's
really
dress.
is a historic moment, and it's a crucial part
They-
of this
they
ceremony.
mentioned
Now,
something
one
about
thing
her
that's different
basically
this year is that traditionally
matching
there is an inaugural luncheon
with
that's held
the
shortly after
the
taking
decor.
of the oaths.
The elegant decor.
In
Elegant.
the old House chamber known as Statuary Hall.
Mm.
Well, as you said, this year because of the pandemic, we're not having it.
That's the poet Amanda Gorman there in the yellow jacket again.
Who is she talking
And
to?
a beautiful view of the dome here on the west front of the Capitol. Again, those flags there representing
She didn't
the
even
central
know.
one.
She didn't
is,
even know.
Our current flag, 50 stars for 50 states. The ones at the far ends for the 13 colonies that were in the Union in the beginning.
Y'all gonna
Friends,
give
we
me
have a video
historical
clip for you right
context
now.
to that?
When applicable, following the
You
swearing
gonna
in
say anything
ceremonies
about what
on the
13
west front of
colonies
US
meant?
Capitol,
It don't look
the
like
outgoing president and first lady leave the Capitol
he's
to
gotten
begin
any
their
older
post-presidential lives.
in the last 20
Traditionally,
years.
The
Bush.
president's departure
Yeah.
takes place with little ceremony.
He aged like
In
crazy
1797,
while in office,
George
and
Washington
then
attended
It's
the
since he
fine.
inauguration
left,
of his
it's just
successor,
been like
John Adams.
Sheesh.
With few
chilling.
exceptions, subsequent departing presidents followed Washington's example. Until the early 20th century, the departing president also usually accompanied the newly elected president on the carriage ride from the Capitol to the White House following the inauguration. In the early 20th century, a new tradition evolved whereby the outgoing president quietly left the Capitol immediately following the swearing-in ceremony. In 1909, after congratulating President Howard Taft, former President Theodore Roosevelt left the Capitol for Union Station, where he took a train to his home in New York. Outgoing Presidents Coolidge and Hoover also left the Capitol for Union Station, where they traveled home by train. Outgoing Presidents Truman, Eisenhower, and Johnson left the Capitol by car. In recent years, the newly installed President and Vice President have escorted their predecessors out of the Capitol after the swearing-in ceremony. The members of the JSIC gather on the stairs on the east front of the Capitol building and watch as the new Vice President escorts the outgoing Vice President and his spouse out of the Capitol through a military cordon.
Look at that
Then,
decorum.
the new president escorts the outgoing president and his spouse through the military
look
cordon.
at both
Since Gerald
Obama and
Ford's
Biden,
departure
the
in
only ones
1977,
talking. Like
the former
Pence
president
and Trump are
First
just
Lady
like
have left the Capitol grounds by helicopter, weather
trying to
permitting.
make sure they don't fall down the stairs. Chance. So that's the
We
recent
have these
years. Who's
wonderful
going to
videos
escort
detailing
now?
some of the traditions behind our inauguration.
Pence is there. I
that
saw
we get
him,
to
right?
Show you. And
Yeah.
here we are preparing to see the departure going down the east front of the Capitol steps. The members of the Joint Committee are going to line up, and you can see VP Harris there in the purple, getting ready. They're getting ready to head out the east doors. The rotunda behind them in this shot, going down through the military cordon and out to the waiting cars.
Have we noticed that the weather conditions have improved dramatically?
Well, we've had some weather changes
That's God
today.
shining
I take back
down on
everything
us,
I said
baby.
in the first hour of the broadcast about the nice 40-degree day that we had. We had some snow flurries in there. Then the sun came out. We're really being taken for a ride today. You know, there were blizzard conditions for William Howard Taft's inauguration. They had to hold that one inside as well.
Notice who was the lead person out the east front.
I'm hella excited to figure out who's
United
about
States
to
Capitol
walk.
Police Officer Eugene O. Goodman
and
here.
out.
He was the gentleman that you saw in
Or
the
out.
light-colored coat.
Wait,
Acting
who's about
Senate Sergeant at Arms,
out
acting Deputy Senate Sergeant at
and
Arms
in
for the day. Here we
for
go.
the new
The
president.
Harrises and the Pences walking down the steps, or excuse me, Mr. Emhoff and Ms. Harris going down the steps here.
Why'd you say Ms.?
These front steps going through the military cordon.
This is what happens when you
Taking a
keep
moment
your
on the
first
east
name.
front
I mean,
steps.
your maiden name. When you get
Together.
married, you're forever a Ms. and not a Mrs.
This has to be a pointed moment for particularly the Pences.
Is that a thing?
We don't know what the future holds for them, but
I mean,
You know, Al Gore was my college graduation speaker, and he said the moment that it took
Thank you, Al
hold
Gore, for the
him,
internet.
that it was over was when he walked away after this moment,
Indeed.
and the Secret Service wasn't there, the car was, everything was different right at this moment, and that's when he realized really what the changeover was. He referenced that in his speech at my graduation.
you know something that is going on right now that we can't
Pence's
see.
wife keeps like
The staff,
backing up, and then
meaning the
coming
outgoing
back in and then
staff,
backing
I'm
up.
sure are just probably in tears right now. I've seen that at a distance, and just knowing that this is final. This is final.
She ready to go.
I mean, I think
This
we'd
is
be
closure.
hard pressed to think of anyone for whom this is not an emotional day.
I wonder if
not just
anybody's
the people
fell
who are
down the
directly
stairs
involved in the
before.
administration, but the folks who work here at the Capitol who witness these every couple of years like we do, and the folks watching at home have got to have emotions bound up in these moments. And especially when you feel empathy.
I would like to know
for
what the
various
what
people, and
emotions
think of the
people are
emotions that are
feeling
going
right
through
now.
those heads. That's usually where it gets me.
I'm not feeling emotional.
So we can see
what's wrong
former
with me?
VP Pence
Question
getting
mark?
into the car here on the East Front, taking
Yeah,
a last look at the
that's-
Capitol and a wave to the staff and the military
'Cause
cordon,
there's a heart-
and the
ice
JSIC,
box where your
the
heart
Joint
used to
Congressional
be.
Committee on Inauguration Ceremonies.
In time, we will have on the East Front the passing of the review, a review passing the review.
We'll see the pass and review here on
Yes.
the East Front in coming up in a little bit. We'll see them standing there and watching, reviewing all of the troops going by.
Now, I was not assigned to the Old Guard. I was assigned to the 82nd Airborne Division of Fort Bragg, North Carolina. And I've been in a lot of processions. And
Pop them
reviews,
credentials.
And it feels like, for example, let's say President Biden is physically looking at everyone there.
You
It's
think
not
Kamala
the
hit
case,
up
but as someone that has served, you feel that way.
Michelle's like stylist or
Well,
for
we
her
were talking
stylist,
earlier about
or
members
is
of
she just
Congress,
gonna go this?
making appearances
I
on our
hope.
tours and acknowledging the members of the
I
public.
really hope she does.
Folks from all over the country and people from all over the world
I mean,
that are
she's
Pretty
visiting
bored
us. But
at this moment.
the members
I'd
of
like a
Congress,
better
the
showing
senators,
from my first
also frequently
lady
acknowledge
vice
us when
president.
we're in positions of support like this. Representative John Lewis always took the time to stop, recognize us, because one of the things that we do in addition to providing tours is to provide support for congressional events. And this, obviously, this is the granddaddy of congressional events for the year. Other times
Ooh,
where there
Granddaddy
are,
Perp.
The granddaddy,
like for Representative Lewis,
granddaddy Pence.
memorial
Oh.
service this past summer. But also
Other way to
congressional medal ceremonies.
reference
Great
that
view
is
of the
Grand
East
Wizard.
Front here.
Yes, you mentioned Mr. Lewis that on the very steps where Vice President Harris and her husband.
Where's
stood
my
in the President's casket.
Yes, right where
This is all within the
VP
last
Harris is
year.
standing. Just this past summer, just about 6 months ago or so, that is where Congressman Lewis's casket was. And actually, Speaker
that?
Pelosi is
It's the
standing
stock's
in
down,
almost the exact
but it's
same
there.
position the cameras
You
captured
can feel it.
on that evening. And you can see the JSIC there as well. So members of the joint
It's a fake out, so they just walk to the middle and be like, "See you later," and then they walk back up and be like, "You got the party."
Excellent camera shot here. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Oh no, it's
Just-
fabulous. Look at we can see everybody here.
Yes.
So just a reminder for the folks at home, Steny Hoyer there in the red scarf, the Speaker of the House in the teal coat that we see there, and that's Senator Blunt with her. He is the chair of this Joint Congressional Committee that is the official host of inaugurations and the host of our live stream today. And here they are all coming back in through the east front door, making this turn. And then there are a few things that need to happen before we have some gift presentations coming up a little bit later on. That would normally happen during the inaugural luncheon.
Day
Didn't
is
you
far
get the
from
gift
done.
of the
We have,
presidency?
President Biden that has some ceremony signings in the president's room that President Washington thought of. To think back in 1780s that President Washington thought, let's have a president's room. It took until the 1850s for them to complete it.
Looking at the east front of the Capitol, when you see it from a shot like this, we think of them as the new House and Senate, but of course, they're not that new.
No.
The new House and Senate chambers are at the far ends of the building. It's called a hyphen, the way that they're connected off the end there. So those are actually cropped out in this view of the east front that we see here. So what you're looking at, if you can imagine, instead of that huge white painted cast iron dome, if you can imagine a shorter one, wood with a copper roof, and that copper roof, turning green over time. That's an idea of what the Capitol looked like back when Jefferson, not Jefferson was inaugurated, back when
Did
we
you hear
were
about the
built.
North Texas dude who threatened to shoot his kids if they turned him in
All right, we've got
for
another
storming the
video coming
Capitol?
up,
What?
and we have these great videos that are taking
Official actions taken by the newly
Go on.
sworn President
Yeah,
of
I'm
the
gonna
United
get some
States
more context. to
occur
this
in the
right
president's
now.
room just off the Senate
Right
chamber
now.
in the U.S. Capitol. After the departure of the former president and first lady,
Threatened to shoot his children
the
for
new
being
president
traitors.
gathers there with aides and members of Congress to sign
this then?
sometimes memorandums, proclamations, or
He
executive
said
orders.
Guy Reffitt has been charged with
tradition began
obstruction
in
of justice
1981
and
with
knowingly
President Ronald Reagan.
entering
Prior to that time,
Restricted building without lawful authority. He went to Washington to protect his country. Nice. So the quote, if you turn me in, you're a traitor, and you know what happens to traitors. Traitors get shot.
Snitches get stitches, but traitors get shot.
And told his daughter that he would put a bullet through her phone if she posted to social media about his comments.
Do they live together? I mean, can we get a wellness check?
Said he was trying to protect the family, and if someone was a traitor, then that's what's going to happen.
I'm sorry. You went to Washington to storm the Capitol to protect your family from who? And then now that you're back home, able to protect your family, you're now the threat to your family?
Double agent.
Oh, you tricky little bitch, you.
You know, today when I looked outside this morning, the sky was like pink. Did you notice that?
I nope. It was dark, and then it was not.
Oh yeah, you started out in the darkness.
Yes,
well, it was like pink outside,
and
it was oddly making me aroused. And so I looked up to see if there was an attraction to the sky. There's not. There's an attraction to nature and a sexual attraction to nature, but not to the sky. In the nature ones are specifically around trees. Because it's phallic.
I've actually seen something about that.
Yeah. But nothing for the sky. So I'm thinking about making a wiki page and being the granddaddy of sky sex.
Got it.
So basically, every time you do it on your back, you climax on your back, it's showing love to the to the sky above.
Wow. Okay. So, what do you think? Joe Biden's the president now. Kamala Harris is the vice president now.
Madame Harris. I feel the same way I did yesterday. Feelings haven't changed. I mean, I know this is like New Year's Day for a lot of people.
Right.
You know, where it's that feeling, and I think there's a renewed energy over a bunch of people who have some work to do and maybe now feel like they have the proper backing in the work that they're trying to do. But as a personal answer to that question, zero, zilch, nada. Although, I do say, make sure you guys cop the 2.0.
Oh.
But how about you?
Yeah, I'm in a similar boat. I don't mean to sound like a Debbie Downer or whatever, but this is very anticlimactic for me. Just knowing what isn't going to be a priority to this administration, and it'll be nicer. It'll be nicer. It will be better.
Okay.
By how much is dependent on what really bothered you with the Trump administration, I suppose. You know, I think that there's a lot of people that are maybe just coming to the realization that there are still racist white people. You know, like somehow there are white folks that are like, this just, I didn't think this was still happening. And so for them, I think that this is historic. And for us, or me, I'll speak for myself. For me, I'm like, cool. You know, better than a Muslim ban for sure. Better than all of the many things that Trump immediately started to do and then was ultimately able to get accomplished. All of that, but also so little, so late. Like I don't even. I just already feel a little bit betrayed by them in the first place. You know, like walking back that whole $2,000, and I wasn't even banking on that happening. But like when you tell Georgia voters, if you vote for the Democrats, you will get a $2,000 check, and then you're like, well, we put that down payment. We're gonna run up the rest.
That's what they basically did. The old Jackson Hewitt. Yeah, a little bit of a little taste of your taxes.
Give you a little bit right now.
A little taste on the spot.
Real life. Bruh.
We see y'all.
Yeah, so it's just a little anticlimactic. I think it's hilarious that Trump just legit was like, I'm not gonna participate in any of the things that.
Yeah.
I
want to know what the numbers are on even watching the inauguration. I mean, I know typically a lot of people show up and, you know, are in the District of Columbia for this day.
Right.
But I want to know if the numbers are down since 40, how many percent? 49.98. And I'm definitely just running that off the top of the head, so fact checkers don't come for me.
Right.
These are alternative facts. But we're gonna say high 40s percent of people
educated guesses.
didn't want to see this day play out like this. So I definitely wonder if the numbers are kind of down, or if it was you know, maybe more people watching to see if there would be some type of disturbance happening.
Right. Like I want to know what's happening in the rest of the world right now, because all the cameras are pointed at DC. Like what's happening
I did a couple of Googles around. that's why I came across the North Texas. That's what I was over here tipping and typing away to see if anything had popped up from any other places, making sure you know, nothing weird was popping off. Wow, as you said, all cameras pointed this way.
Yeah.
Let me see. Georgia. Let me cut this.
Interesting that we're getting headlines like that about
Kennedy, Robert Francis Kennedy, and Edward Kennedy. Oh, look at our control.
Sorry, I thought you pulled the audio up like I was missing something important.
That
we're getting those headlines about schools and issuing guidelines on how to watch this and stuff like that. Like, I don't. I you know, as a kid, you don't know or think about any of that stuff. So I wonder if when I was a student and they were showing the OJ business in class, if that was talked about before by the district, or if someone just pulled a DP in.
Yes.
I mentioned this earlier. There should be a lot performed here.
You know?
But this is our control center.
That's a take.
Over 30 camera feeds throughout the building, throughout the campus, that is giving you this great coverage.
You might have heard a collective gasp from Ron and I earlier when we got that camera view inside the president's room, right? Where right now the president and
this commentator group or duo is killing me.
There really are no unornate spaces.
No.
Like this is like a, you know, SNL skit, because no matter who's doing this, when you're standing anywhere with that headset on and you're in a matching outfit, there is no.
Kennedy caucus room has been the site of.
There's no different dynamic. You know what I mean? It always sounds like this. It always looks.
That is funny. That's a funny observation.
In 1937, President Roosevelt's plan to pack the Supreme Court was discussed.
And Watergate hearings. So
Watergate.
I don't think this room is.
Let's go. Let me see.
Well, this might be something.
Because I know
point of interest to our audience at home, because they probably picture all of the action
the 45th.
No.
And really,
went down a
where the voting happens,
nice little pardoning list.
Debate, but
Oh yeah, he ran it up.
Committee chambers. Here we see the Clintons departing there on our screen.
Lil Wayne got out of there. Kodak Black.
Yeah, I need more understanding about the Kodak Black one.
And if you watch hearings on TV, you may know
That is tight.
that you're seeing different spaces than you see when you watch votes.
Here comes the Obamas.
How did that come to fruition?
That's all I need.
Ooh, look at that build. That fit is hard. I didn't even peep that the first time.
I would not. All I saw was coat earlier.
Yeah.
Now we get the full sleigh.
Made intentionally to be fireproof.
You know what's ironic, Janet? This building.
They really just be walking around like
when they built the new buildings, such as the Hart
that's
building,
their old place.
Members didn't want to go to the technology.
Yeah,
building.
right.
Everyone likes everything old. Think about this.
I mean,
where do they have inaugural luncheons for the president? Old statuary hall, old House chamber. Where were they before? Old Senate chamber. No one likes anything new.
Yeah, we have a very long memory. I mentioned to you guys in the beginning that the guys
Wait a minute.
part of the story here on Capitol Hill, part of the community.
Lil Wayne,
76. So
like guilty?
I talk about old versus new. We really mean that in like a much further reach. If you can imagine this new Hart Senate.
What was they waiting on?
I think. And we talk about the new House chamber, the new Senate chamber. Those are from the late 1850s.
The new House chamber received criticism because of artificial air, artificial light. I mean, amazing.
Now, the old House chamber we now call National Statuary Hall. That video that we just watched about inaugural lunches showed a lot of photographs that happened there in National Statuary Hall, where that luncheon is traditionally held, and it's the former House chamber. And actually, it's the way the building functions architecturally. It's pretty much a pass-through. It's directly on the route between the rotunda, the Speaker's office, and the House floor.
Janet, let's go to another video, please.
On March 4th, 1793, Washington gave the shortest inaugural address on record, just 135 words. Every president since Washington has delivered an inaugural address. While many of the early presidents read their addresses before taking the oath, current custom dictates that the Chief Justice of the Supreme
This is
Court
so gross. All of these
followed by the president's speech.
pardons are disgusting.
Delivered the longest inaugural address at 8,405 words on March 4th, 1841. John Adams' inaugural address, which totaled 2,308 words, contained the longest sentence at 737 words. In 1921, Warren G. Harding became the first president to take his oath and deliver his inaugural address through loudspeakers. In 1925, Calvin Coolidge's inaugural address was the first to be broadcast nationally by radio. And in 1949, Harry S. Truman became the first president to deliver his inaugural address over television airwaves.
Oh.
Most presidents use their inaugural address to present their vision of America and to set forth their goals for the nation. Some of the most eloquent and powerful speeches are still quoted today.
Like what?
In 1865, in the waning days of the Civil War, Abraham Lincoln stated, "With malice toward none, with charity for all, with firmness in the right as God gives us to see the right, let us strive on to finish the work we are in, to bind up the nation's wounds, to care for him."
So what's the latest? What did you
and
secure?
And his orphan.
Well, I was just looking at the pardons for both Lil Wayne and Kodak Black, and I'll have to obviously do much more reading. We'll cover this later this week, but
and in 1961,
basically they paid for a pardon. I mean, the White House is saying that they were philanthropic. That is, that both of them are very philanthropic, and named the charities that they gave money to. But I got a feeling
Not
it's
only
more
does this
like
basic live stream
I paid
have
for my
cameras in
parking,
places
just
that
like
no one else does to give us behind the scenes views,
Steve
we
Bannon
also have
and
cameras
all of
placed
the
in some
rest
of the
of them
historic
that got
spaces
pardons.
so that
Why would they do
Capitol
such a
tour
thing?
guides like John and myself can give you almost kind of like a virtual tour of the
is kinda
Capitol.
nuts
So here
reading
we
some
are
of these.
looking down at the rotunda.
This rotunda floor
I mean,
is about
it's
7,200
what does
square
it
feet,
what does it
and
mean
the
when
angle's giving
you
you a view
give a
of
pardon to somebody who
painting.
pled guilty to the
Now,
thing?
it's called a
Like,
frieze.
I am
and
not
it styles
a fan of
Trompe-l'oeil.
this here
Yes, I don't speak
justice
French well.
system
That's
at
French
all.
to trick the eye. And then
Um,
you see the sprawling
but this isn't a
painting
case of
called
like
the
I
Apotheosis of George
pled
Washington,
guilty
Because
under
pleading
duress.
painted by a
guilty
naturalized citizen Constantino Bernini
versus
from
fighting
1864 to
sometimes. That's
1865.
part of when your
So
plea
you can imagine
agreements
this, folks.
and
This
things
is
happen.
180 feet above
You're
your
pleading
head. From this
guilty
angle, it's like
or
you're
no
standing on the
contest,
floor of the
essentially.
rotunda, except we've got this
But you're
X-ray
taking, you're
vision
pleading
where we
guilty
can
to usually
zoom in
lesser
and really look
charges.
at the fresco.
So that
Okay,
you
this
don't
is
get
helpful.
rail-
Thank you.
railroaded
Fresh in Italian,
in a
and
trial.
it's painted on wet
Fair.
plaster. This is
Okay.
done actually in place.
I appreciate that
Well, what we're
perspective
zooming in
there.
on is
Yeah.
Mercury. There are
So
Roman.
that's how that
or you
began.
can use
But,
Greek classical figures that all
I-
teach the American story.
I'm
and friends, I
like,
want you to look at the back of
again,
money
I'm all
Mercury's
for
handing Robert
people
Morris.
getting up out
Now,
their
look
things.
above Mr. Morris's silver hair.
Definitely.
and
I'm
between the
just
next
talking about
gentleman's
the
It's
head,
just funny the way,
Janet,
like,
can you
who,
see a
how did,
silhouette of another head?
Yes, and this is something that
There's
we
a
can't
lot of
count on
people
tour standing on the floor of
in
the
the
rotunda
world
because you'd never be able
in
to
our
see it.
justice
I'm growing hair, don't I?
This scene
system.
was actually dated 1865 by the artist
I mean-
Constantino Bernini. The gentleman in the black suit, Robert Morris,
Yeah,
the financier of the American Revolution. He was
I have
courageous
lots
in the
of
Revolution.
feelings.
He personally bankrolled a lot of the shoes and weapons.
And we'll talk about that on
uniforms
Friday
George
or
Washington
something.
sold to us. And so
Hey.
he's depicted in this scene
Okay.
with Mercury. This is a scene about commerce.
Hold up,
Right
wait a
there
minute.
between those two gentlemen, there was a third.
There we go. Cut that. Let me cut that down. Anyways. Wait, what? Uh-oh. Are you guys overriding settings?
You're in the you're in the loop.
They playing with a pimp. They playing. I'm gonna just stop that share. There we go. But yeah, this was tight. I do want to figure out at some point how to get both of our screens being happening at the same time.
Yeah.
Not a fan of the switchback, as they say. I thought I figured it out with hitting the gallery view joint. That's what, when I Googled it, that's what it was saying. So if any of our watchers out there have the juice, please let it be known, because it's lying
Need the
to
helps.
me. Yeah. Hell yeah. Anyways, we don't have no dramatic exit, so
Nah, thanks for hanging with us.
yeah, we watched with y'all, y'all watched with us. And with that being said, we out.